Ladies and gentlemen from around the world, that's right, to our listeners in Ireland, the US, New Zealand, the UK, and of course Canada, friends and fans of Chris, welcome to the Gift of Gaming podcast. Do you ever wish there was just more to a game? Something that you could play once the credits rolled? Well, in this episode, we're in the Endgame now. It's me, it's your host on the Gift of Gaming podcast, Darren Wade, and today I'm joined by my one and only brother. Well, actually, I've got two brothers, but he's on the show today, Andrew Wade. Andrew, how are you keeping?
Not too bad, Darren. Good to be here.
Good. This was meant to be a show on the genre corner. We were going to talk about survival, but, you know, life happens and people aren't available, so we've had to do a quick little switch up. And today's show, we're talking about all things Endgame. So we're going to look at anything that comes into a game post-credits. Is it good? Is it bad? And then we might talk about some DLCs that we thought were good and some DLCs that we thought were bad, and kind of things. Talk about things that we enjoyed. But before I go on, I thought I'd start the episode with go through our housekeeping. We have a new Patreon. Andrew, would you believe?
I know we're up to two now.
Up to two, yeah, absolutely. We're
Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, we're making headway. So a good shout out to Ian who's signed up. Ian, welcome aboard. For all those listeners out there, you can find our extra content at patreon.com/thegiftofgame, and there is a bucket load of extra content there of us doing post shows, talking about competitive games, asking each other what if gaming questions, looking at scenarios that happen in video games, and talking about how we do things differently. There's loads of stuff there, and it's a bit more relaxed and a bit more easygoing than our normal episodes here. But yeah, for the price of a coffee a month, all that extra content could be yours. Be a legend like Ian.
You get to listen to us talking absolute nonsense. More nonsense than
absolutely,
normal.
Yeah, absolutely more nonsense than normal. But before we get into it, Andrew, what have you been? How are you keeping? What have you been
playing? I have been burning through Diablo 4 at the moment. So
yeah, Kev Brennan is a good bit through that with our dear friend Niall. I think the last time I spoke to them, they were on level 30 something. I saw them playing through a bit of the game. Looks great.
It is fantastic. Yeah, I mean it's story. I mean it's Diablo, so story. But no, it's really good. I'm liking it's kept a lot of the stuff that kept Diablo 3 interesting for me, kind of thing. So.
When you say story, do you mean that it's there's not a whole lot to it because it's a Diablo game?
It has a good story, but I mean it's never, and it'll fill into what we're talking about later on as well. Like with Diablo, it's always about get the story out of the way as fast as you can because all the fun comes later. So yeah, I've been trying to burn through the story. But
that's a good shit to kick us off because Diablo would be famous for its Endgame content. You know, everything gets better and harder and more loot.
Yeah, this difficulty isn't high enough. We got 15 more difficulties further along the line for you to test your thing out.
Test your skills. I like.
And then you just come crawling back to that difficulty because you realize it was awful.
And where does Diablo 4 lie in amongst the other Diablos? Are you satisfied? Do you think it was worth the wait?
Well, so I only joined Diablo from Diablo 3, so I've only that to go by. And I played the shit out of Diablo 3. I don't even want to know how long I spent playing that game.
Just a lot of
hours. Yeah, that's probably up there with my No Man's Skies and Monster Hunters.
My biggest disappointment with Diablo 4 was that when back in the day when Diablo 3, I don't know if it came out or had been out for a while, but myself, Craig, Niall and Kev, funny enough, I think were the four of us that were playing it. And we were pumping a lot of hours into that. But the interesting thing about that was we were playing it on the Switch, I think. And all four of us were playing off a single Switch console. So only one person needed to own that game to do a 4-player co-op. In this version of Diablo, you can have a maximum of 2 on one thing, and then you need another console and this to do another 2-player. And it has to be online.
There are a few things I don't like about this iteration. One is the online aspect of it, which Diablo 3 was never. You could play it online and play with people online, but it was always a case of couch co-op.
It's a big movement in gaming that bothers me as a whole. The fact that you have to be forever online to play certain games, and there's certain just like single player games, like single player narrative games out there that exist. That it's like, oh, you know, no internet connection.
This is the thing as well, like because so many people are trying to burn through the story as fast as they can, because again, Diablo, you go to the end game because that's where your content lies, kind of thing, is that when you play it online, it's almost impossible to play it with other players online because nobody wants to join a game that might be behind where they are. They just want to get theirs out of it. So you've got little chat options where you can kind of go, hi, I need help, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, you guys, sorry, no, no. And then they'll just port away to wherever part of the game they're in. So for an online game, I mean, you spend a lot of time playing single player.
I was going to say, and like, And to me, a Diablo game, I mean, I've only played Diablo 3, and I've only played Diablo 3 as a 4-person game. Yeah. We only played it when the 4 of us met up, and it was a blast. So yeah, I can see why it might not be a whole lot of fun playing one-player games.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, I do love the Diablo experience. I mean, even playing it as a single player, like, the difference now is that if you play Diablo 3, it was all 4 of you on the screen at once, and you all kind of followed each other along there. So you couldn't really, one person couldn't leave the screen because everyone else was dependent on the same screen to find each other, not on the PlayStation anyway. With this one now, I mean, you see lots of other players in the world around you as well. So you might go into one of the events, so it might be like free 5 trapped souls in a graveyard. That's just one of the ones I keep coming across everywhere. And like that, you run in, and like 4 or 5 other people might just pile in on it as well, of all different classes, and it just turns into chaos. Hilarious chaos.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun, but those moments are too brief.
Okay.
There's no kind of, and let's go to they're gone already. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
they don't like this mission. They're out.
Back to solo walking halfway across the continent to find the next mission.
Yeah. Well, speaking of solo experiences, I am currently about 5 to 6 hours into Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, is it as good as it looks?
It is, and it's not. So it's not perfect. So interestingly enough, I'm a big fan of the Kind of Funny, just Kind of Funny podcast, and the guys over there. One of the guys in particular, Tim Geddes, is. I've been listening to him for years, but he kind of shares the exact same love for the exact same games that I do. So he's a big fan of the Final Fantasy series. He loves Smash Brothers.
He must love Kingdom Hearts.
He likes Kingdom Hearts, not as much as me, Andrew. But I don't think there's anybody out there that loves Kingdom Hearts as much as me. But he came out and said in their review of it, in a small clip that I sent on to Kev for him to have a listen to, because he's also gotten the game, where he talks about it being, now he doesn't know where it is in his favorites of Final Fantasy. He was kind of saying he needs time to digest it. But he was kind of saying it's probably the best Final Fantasy game ever made, and possibly up there with one of the best video games ever made. Which is a crazy statement.
That's a bold statement considering they're the last Final Fantasy game.
Well, I mean, remake, you're talking about 7 remake.
Oh, no, I'm talking about 15.
Oh, well, 15 was a heap of... I mean, 15 had its good moments, and if Kev was on this episode today, Kev Brennan, I'm sure he would be using 15's Endgame as a good point of... a good talking point, because in his opinion it had great Endgame content. But no, I'm like 5 hours into this, and what I love about it is narratively, which is what I'm all about in video games these days, it's huge. Like, there is non-stop cutscenes, non-stop just narrative drops of what's going on in the world, and done like reasonably well, which I was excited for at the beginning, because there was plenty of cutscenes. These cutscenes would go on for 10, 12 minutes. It was like it's got a real Game of Thrones vibe. That's the thing you'll hear being thrown out a lot. It's got real Game of Thrones vibes in terms of the backstabbing, the subterfuge, all that kind of... Just
what you say there is about the cutscenes. That's one of the ones that concerned me, because the last game I kind of played that had huge cutscenes like that was Metal Gear Solid 4.
Well, which still, as far as I know, still holds the record for the longest cutscene in a video game.
I'd be amazed if anyone's beaten that.
But the thing about it is that the cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid 4, they were so much like, oh, the la 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 la, and all that kind of nonsense stuff that you didn't really know what they were talking about. And they are just like, there's loads of talking, but nothing's being said. Whereas in Final Fantasy 16, it is very concise. I mean, it's a fantasy world, don't get me wrong. They're talking about crazy things, and
it's like,
people turned into summons.
What the hell's a Moogle?
But it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. It's really engaging stuff. But I almost, in my first 5 hours of playing it, have been like, is there a little bit too much? I want a bit more action. And then you go into these quiet little village things where it's not cutscene heavy, but it's a lot of like talk to NPCs heavy, and they're kind of describing to you the world that you're living in and how things are. And I'm hoping it's just because I'm still very early on in the game that I'm getting a lot of this narrative stuff and a lot of this lore building and world building, because I kind of want to
just play
and get into kind of the meatier stuff. There's a lot of... I just went through a village where like there was 2 or 3 NPCs that kind of forcibly stopped you, and they were the main quests. They weren't doing side quests, and the main quests were kind of, go deliver this cloak to that man and he might recognize you for who you are, and that's how we'll deliver some more of the narrative. And I'm like, I
think though, like, they did say that they wanted to go a completely different direction
And they have.
With this. I mean, that's obvious now looking at the...
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far into it because I think myself, Craig, and Kev, after doing the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer breakdown, I think the three of us agreed that we'd love to do an early thoughts on Final Fantasy 16 over the next couple of weeks, which is something that we might do or look into. So I won't go into it too much. But the battle system, the action in it is amazing. I forget his name, but the guy who was the lead battle designer, who I think did a lot for... possibly, I know, don't quote me on this if I'm wrong, email us at thegiftofgaming@gmail.com, but thegiftofgamingpodcast@gmail.com.
You were so close.
I'm never going to get these things right. But he possibly either worked on Final Fantasy 15 or Devil May Cry, because there's a crossover. It's the creative unit who did Final Fantasy 14, the online one, and then there's a team from Devil May Cry that came in to help. So it's a kind of a mashup, and it's definitely got Devil May Cry vibes in terms of the style of fighting, but in the best of ways.
Yeah, like
he came out and said that this battle system in this game is his masterpiece.
Yeah, like I played the demo, and like you do get to play a bit of the combat in that as well, and then they have once you finish the story part of it, you do get to do that challenge thing afterwards as well.
Which actually, and I still haven't gotten to that stage where you have all those extra abilities and things like that, but that was fun to do, fun to experience kind of what the game is capable of.
Yeah.
And the fights are so cinematic and so enjoyable. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm into it. I'm loving it. I've heard amazing things. To hear Tim come out and say it's the greatest Final Fantasy game ever created, it's one of the greatest video games ever created. My jury is out on that one.
Yeah,
I don't know where I stand yet. But again, I'm only like 5-6. I mean, I'm now kind of entering the open world. Possibly, I've kind of just done that. The Final Fantasy VII Midgard.
Yeah, so you get to experience the gameplay as such as not the overbearing story.
Yeah, not where you're being handheld through. Here's what's happening in the world. Now I'm at the part where it's off you go. So I think I'll be able to make my judgment on that. And people have said that as the game goes on, it does just continuously get better. So I'm looking forward to that aspect. But enough on that, Andrew. We do have an episode. 15 minutes later or whatever else.
We
to
stroll
talk about.
off into the realms of
Yeah. So we said we're going to talk about endgame content. So we're going to define endgame content as what the game gives to you once credits roll. And we said we're going to talk about good endgame content and bad endgame content, and also look at kind of DLC, good or bad. And DLC for me, it doesn't have to be DLC that's I'm not talking about feckin' we're not talking about DLC that you download for different skins for characters, nothing like that. I'm talking about
no cosmetics.
No cosmetics, just additional gameplay to the game, additional story, additional areas, additional maps, whatever it might be, just to continue the gameplay. And good and bad DLC as well. So I guess do you wanna start off with a game? Well, I mean, I'm sure you probably brought to the table good and bad end game. Right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean I've got one that I think everyone can agree was quite possibly one of the worst end game
we're starting
contents.
bad. Okay.
We'll go into.
No, go for it.
I'll get it out of the way first, because it is a game I absolutely love, and I get so much stick for saying that, but I mean, it's
a game you love, but even the end game content was bad.
Oh, even I have to admit, the end game content. Not that it was bad, it didn't exist.
All right,
it was supposed to be there, and then just never was there.
So what game are we talking about?
Anthem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For those who can't see my brother's face, the look of absolute disgust has been...
No, but I think, fair dues for you to sticking it out to the end game, but am I surprised that you were disappointed? No.
I mean...
But what was so disappointing about Anthem's end game, quote unquote?
That's great. Its game in general was... So, like, with Anthem, I mean... It had the flight mechanics were some of the best I've ever played in a game. The graphics were incredible, and the story at the start really pulled you in. I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it was genuinely decently done, and I enjoyed it kind of thing. And I know, like looking back on it now, you can start to realize there was a lot of plot holes and stuff was missing from it.
But it's not even the plot holes. It's that same kind of issue that we would have had with, I suppose, Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky. Just things were promised to consumers that were never delivered.
100%. I mean, this was a case of like the game we got was nothing like the game we were promised to get, and again, as such, what you see with a lot of games lately now as well. But like this as well, it was supposed to be, you get to the end and you've saved, you saved everyone, you happy days, you've gotten rid of the monitors, the big evil dude, kind of thing. The anthem is still going, and these creatures from the beyond are supposed to be returning, and they've managed to sneak back into your world. And this, okay, grand, yeah, we get to fight these guys, and they look cool. Like the reveal at the end, you get to see these creatures that you're going to be fighting, kind of thing, and then nothing. And everyone kind of sat in this world where we've done everything we can do. What's left? Pick up these things that are dotted so sporadically all across the map that you spend the rest of your life looking for them. And that was it. I was like, okay, well, we can still fly around and continue the missions. Like, yeah, you can repeat the missions, but as the game kind of shut down because you saw the backlash that Anthem had in the end, rightly so. I mean, as much as I love that game, the backlash it got was 100% deserved. It was atrocious. But as more and more you see more and more people leaving the game, and like I still play it on occasion, and a lot of people do still play it. Like I think, oddly enough, I had a huge amount of players there playing it recently. I think it must have been launched for free or something. It was like 20,000 people playing it at one point.
It
like,
went
on people.
I was almost convinced to try it because I think it went on sale at one point for, I mean, I could be wrong, but it was on PlayStation Store for under €3.
Oh, it was, for a while it was free. It was, if you have the EA Game Pass, it was free.
Yeah.
Now, I have that because my son Max likes to play a couple of games that the EA Game Pass card, like Battlefront and that kind of stuff, so got that for him. And then Anthem appeared up on it again, and I had the disc version of Anthem, and I got so unbelievably fed up with it that I just got rid of it. That's probably one of the few games that have actually just, not quite snapped the disc, but just, to hell with you kind of thing ever again. But then it came free, and I still had all the data on the PlayStation. Figured, I'll play it again, and it's like that again. You get to the Endgame, and it's just desolate. And because there's so few people playing it now, you again, like those games, you can't play it solo anymore. You has to be logging into the server to play the game.
It's such a risk, and I think there's a lot of talk because PlayStation are kind of moving in that direction where what is it, like gaming as a service, as opposed, like, having these games that are constantly being updated. And unfortunately, with games like that, they can just die a death. And not just die a death meaning that like people don't play, but become unplayable because people aren't playing.
100%.
I mean, one thing that terrifies me, because I would love to retire into Final Fantasy 14 around Reborn.
100%.
I'd love to retire into that game, and I worry that like the servers will all be dead and gone by the time I get to that age. But it's sad in a way where they're doing that with other games. I mean, Avengers was such an epic failure, and I never even bought that, but I'm so devastated it was a failure. But they made the absolute wrong choice to make that as a
I got that game, and I thankfully I'd learned from my pre-order mistakes with the likes of Anthem and stuff that never pre-order games. So I did get that game after the thing, and people were saying, "Oh yeah, it was really good, really good." But I must have bought it just as people started to realize, wait a minute, this isn't as good as everyone's making it out to be.
Yeah, so like as you said, once people are on the game, it's no
longer.
I mean,
like you could spend now 10-15 minutes waiting to get into a game, and then realize you're the only one there because everyone else has left. And then you're flying around this. It's a beautiful world, but it's empty. Yeah, like there's very few active time events anymore, kind of where things that pop up. There's very few people. There's no one basically. You might get
open worlds. It's with the technology that we have, and we're on. The next. Well, I mean, we're kind of in the middle of the next generation's life cycle, if you believe what people are saying about when the next console should be coming out. But open worlds, because other companies have achieved it, and like Rockstar did it years ago with Red Dead Redemption 2, open worlds should feel completely lived in. They should. They should never, unless your game is designed to be desolate. Yeah, they should never feel desolate. And there's a lot of games that are coming out that do feel. Yeah, empty. I mean, this game was designed so that you and your mates could land in, basically relive all your Iron Man fantasies in whatever way you see fit. Yeah. Land in and just cause absolute chaos together. Now it's a case you fly around, you might find 3 or 4 creatures run around, land down, kill them because you're god powered at this stage because you've been playing it for so long. I'm talking about myself, by the way. I've been playing for far too long. And then you fly off again to just fly around this world where nothing happens and no one visits. And it's like, it's, again, I love the game, but it's so sad to see that's what its end game is. Absolute just silence. Yeah. It's just nothing. I think, talking about that kind of empty world versus kind of full open world kind of lived in thing. I guess that'll bring it to mine, and I'm going to go on Endgame, but the Endgame is essentially DLC. So and I'm going to do a compare and contrast because these two are very comparable. I'm going to talk about the Horizon series. So Horizon Forbidden West, for Horizon Zero Dawn, the first one that came out, credits rolled, you finish the game, and you could go off and do all your side missions and do all your collectibles. But then there was an extra missions or a DLC that came out called the Frozen Wilds, where you could go further up north to the Banuk tribe. And it was a big enough extra map, but the quests were really engaging. The Banuk as a tribe, who were credited in mystery before, were still kind of credited in mystery in this, but like you became part of that tribe and learned those bits and pieces about them. But the quest was quite, it was engaging. The whole end, because you'd finished, credits had rolled, and it was quite engaging. A couple of new weapons, a couple of new costumes, but also a good chunk of storyline. And I'm not saying this world was completely full, because you were in like the northernmost territories, which are like the most severe to live in terms of like the winter and the snow and the cold. It's a really desolate, hard place to live. But even that, I really enjoyed that map. It wasn't huge. It was, to me, it was the right size and just a good quality end game. And then we get Horizon Forbidden West.
Just for on that as well, because it was great to see with that as well, because Silence as well, he gets all the Banuk implant things they get.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's always throwing, but you never really see them in the game. So have that and kind of see, what Silence thought was so amazing for them. Did he go and become there? Was a shaman he became for them?
Yeah, he was a shaman for them. But he, again, that whole thing about him and the Banuk was still shrouded in mystery. You never, even though I finished that game, and like I platinumed Horizon Zero Dawn and the DLC, but some people really kind of, I think, liked Silence, and other people
did not like him at all.
Didn't like him at all. So he obviously had quite an effect. But again, it's that shred and mystery. It's that whole lead up to, what will the sequel do with this character? But it was a really, really good DLC, really good end game, extra stuff, a couple of new monsters, machines to fight. But really well put together. And I enjoyed the storyline of it. Now fast forward to Forbidden West, the PS5 Horizon, which was like one of the most incredible looking games ever. And the original game, although there's parts of it that I didn't agree with, I'm not saying didn't agree with, but didn't enjoy. I'm not saying, I mean, decisions that were made were fine. But an amazing looking game. They brought out the DLC called the Burning Shores.
Yeah.
And I have to say, very disappointed with that as DLC.
Really?
Yeah, to me, so in that game, one of the things that bothered me is they had this thing where, I think it's the idea, and spoilers here for people who haven't played the games, so switch off now if you want to play Horizon kind of clean. But the idea that these guys would, these people who went off on, I forget what the ship's name was called, and the spaceship's name, but they discovered how to become immortal, and they lived for 1,000 years and came back. I've no kind of, I don't have an issue with that as a narrative piece. But it was this thing where you go through the game, before you play the DLC as Aloy, and you find out that Ted Faro built a monument to himself.
Which, to be fair, going with it sounds exactly what he would have done in life anyway.
Yeah, but to me, it's like, it was, like an Egyptian pyramid type thing. He had the statue, like the pharaohs of old was his kind of thing. And I didn't really, to me, it wasn't, listen, the story's an apocalyptic future. But even to me, in that world, that wasn't overly believable that he would have gone and done that afterwards. Because, by the end of Zero Dawn, you kind of discover that he's gone a bit lula anyway. So would he have had the capabilities and the resources to go and build this before the world crashed? I don't really know.
But I think when you look at that, though, he controlled everything. Like, he controlled the entire military at that point.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
true.
I mean, don't think funding was his
but I
major...
think this idea of people bowing down. So we had the Banuk tribe in the first game. Really interesting culture, kind of delved into a bit more, and just it's, to me at least, very enjoyable. And in the Burning Shores, we had the Quen.
Yeah.
And the Quen and whatever way they did it with these Quen, because you meet the Quen in the main game, and they're quite interesting in terms of they're very reserved. You meet one of the Quen who ends up joining your team, who's really into knowledge and everything like that, and she's quite an interesting character. But I didn't really enjoy the Quen as a tribe at all in the Burning Shores, and the part of me that bothered me the most was, as beautiful as the game looked, that was such an empty map.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Nothing was happening on that map at all. The only joy I got from that was, and I had to force myself to do it. It wasn't as the game is naturally bringing you to this part. It was just loads of islands dotted around the place. And the only thing that I got any joy from was, which I never did in the either of the full other games, because there was so much other stuff to do, but I felt like this DLC was really lacking, that I was forced to go out and look for other things to do, and I would find messages left behind by other people, and the messages in this one are a little bit darker because they're all about the literally the end of
the world. Yeah.
Whereas in the other messages were people just having chit chat and like dating and normal life stuff, but knowing that there was something wrong. Whereas in this one,
everyone knew something was gone.
Yeah, like they're all in the middle of a battle and a war, and people are figuring stuff out, and it's all horrific. So that kind of stuff was very much, from the lore building side, was very, very good. But that world was so empty, and that boss was such a character devoid of sort of anything that I found in any way interesting.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the whole thing about you love to see the mechanical creatures within Horizon. Like, it's part of what makes it the world it is, kind of thing.
Yep.
But Was it the what do they call the metal devils? They have
the horse.
The horse, yeah. Like those things should have only ever been a backdrop. I think the mystery behind them and how they worked was kind of like, something, they have this terror of these creatures that are now embedded in the mountainsides kind of thing. But to see that thing moving around and stuff, I found it just kind of took a bit away from them. It just seems like, look at me, but a girl with a bow and arrow can take it down.
Yeah. So like you've got one girl with a bow and arrow on a flying bird machine, and you on the ground with a bow and arrow, and you're managing to take down this machine that back in the day was
wiped out civilization.
Was desolating places. Yeah. So for again, they went too far in it, and like. And I always felt that the horse would have been in a game, but I would have loved for the horse to be in the end of Horizon 3, and it takes everybody that you've met out on the battlefield with loads of new tech.
And it's already wiped out half of what you know, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's like
to beat it. Whereas this thing, and I know they say, oh, well, he was still, they did the cop-out where it's like, oh, well, they're still building up some of the... It's still having to charge
powering
up. It's still powering up, whatever else. But even still, it just... So for me, Forbidden West or the Frozen Wilds versus the Burning Shores are two examples of DLC that I think are done well and not done well. And what's sad is that Horizon Forbidden West is such an amazing game. Graphically, it looks so good. I was really anticipating good DLC for that game to continue on the good work that they had done. Like I said, I'm a little bit unsure about where the game is going. But for the most part, the journey was great. And the journey in the DLC for the Burning Shores is not... It's just an empty world.
Would I be right in saying, though, because I think... I had to kind of like look back on it after I finished it and kind of thing, because I had the same kind of feelings. Like I finished it and I was like, oh. But what I think I found was that graphically, it was beautiful. Story-wise, I really enjoyed it. But once I finished it, unlike like I played Burning Wilds, and I played
Burning Shores
Frozen Wilds. Jesus. Played Frozen Shores, and I've done it again, haven't I?
Burning Shores. Frozen
Excuse me
Wilds.
while I reboot my brain here. Yes, that one, the cold one.
Yeah.
I played that, and I played obviously Zero Dawn and the New Horizon. Oh my god, my
Forbidden West.
There we go. But of all of those, I've come back to the world. I've come back to play it again and kind of like explore and thing and do all the little bits and pieces. But I noticed when Burning Shores came, I'm like, I got it. I didn't. I never went back to. I finished it, and that was it. Because that's grand. And then went straight back to playing.
Yeah, it's such an empty world. Like you went back to the map in.
I went back to the map in
There's nothing in Burning Shores, and as beautiful as the game looks, it is seriously devoid of any life. And interestingly enough, I didn't do a whole lot of investigating in terms of just going around looking and doing the collectibles in the map until I finished the storyline. And what's very interesting is that I would say about 60% of the map by the time I finished
was
the
already
storyline,
explored.
No, was uncovered.
Oh, okay.
And just left there with nothing to do on it apart from maybe find a collectible. And that's what bothered me about it, is that, from a developer's perspective, why would you waste so much effort on building? Because the map to me is too big. For the storyline that they decided to take, the map to me is too big, and you revisit a couple of areas on that map.
I think
a lot.
I think a problem with that map as well is that there's so much water. And another thing, it fits into the narrative of like the Quen came across the water, and of course it's kind of like the island in that kind of thing where they are as well. But when you look at, say, the likes of Forbidden West, a lot of the exploration you're doing, it's nice to find the big pools of water going out by the sea and stuff to explore, but a lot of the places you explore, you can't fight underwater. Yeah. You can't fight on water. In fact, once you're in water, all you can do is swim.
Which was a really annoying part in the fight with the horse, because he's out on the beach, and because I had my camera facing up at him, so often at times I didn't see where I was running.
Oh, I ran into the water so many times.
And I'd have a bomb or a thing ready to fire, and all of a sudden Aloy's swimming, and I can't do anything, and I'm like, So it's disappointing in that I feel the developers did a great job of making it look beautiful, but a lot of it's just wasted space.
I think if we had the option of some form of water combat or water traversal that wasn't entirely dependent on flying on your, it's not the sun wing. What's the one that can actually go underwater?
Water wing.
The water wing. So obviously, like that was nice. You could go underwater, but there was still, you were so limited in what you could do regarding water, and because water took up so much space in this map, it may as well have just been blocked off, bordered out, you couldn't get to it kind of thing.
And it seemed real. So they did this thing at the start of the game, at the start of the DLC, to stop you just getting, because you can fly, you can have flying mounts by the time you get here, to stop you flying around the whole map at the start, so you can actually follow the trail at the beginning. They had this weird tower thing and like that becomes obsolete so quickly. It's a real shoehorn. It's like a GTA 3. We've closed all the bridges because of a storm, so you can't go to the other islands. This
storm is here for an inordinate amount of time. We'll let you know when it goes away.
Which is a really interesting. I was kind of like, I thought we're past that. But yeah, so I think that's an example of very, very good DLC. And I'm not saying the Burning Shores is bad DLC. It's not bad DLC, but they've, interestingly enough, that the one that they had prior was better.
Yeah.
I think they learned their lesson. So I've gone through a good and a bad. You've gone through a bad. You've got a good end game.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it goes back to what we were discussing before the podcast started, like what actually classes as end game. I think DLC we will include as that is end game stuff you play after you finish.
I hope so, because I've just talked about DLC.
Yeah, otherwise we're screwed for this. We might as well just close this podcast off now. No, and it's one close to my heart. I know it's close to your heart as well. Realm Reborn.
Oh yeah, good shout. Yeah,
because that, I mean, you finish the main game of that. You finish Realm Reborn. You go through it. That's grand. Again, amazing story, absolutely fantastic. And it's something we discussed when we first played it. Such a rush, and not in a good way, getting to the end of the game, because it was a case of you're just chasing people who have already burned through cutscenes and stuff. So
yeah, to kind of put that in perspective for those who haven't played Realm Reborn, I was very late to the party in terms of finishing that game. I hopped on Realm Reborn kind of early on when it came out, but late to finishing the game. And the problem with those where you need people to join a quest to finish a quest, the end of the game, the dungeon, I mean, it's not exactly a dungeon, but they're called dungeons, they're called raids, whatever when you call them. You need a certain amount of people to do it, and the last two missions in that game were very cutscene heavy. But the problem was, initially, people weren't signing up to do. So the only way I can do it is if I get 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 4 DPS, and that's the only way we can finish the mission. But no one online was hopping on to do those last 2 missions anymore because they were so cutscene heavy and you couldn't finish them. So why am I going to go back and redo the cutscenes? But I only got to the end of the game when they had fixed that, and their fixing of that meant that people could just skip the cutscene and run ahead. So I remember I was sitting there, you and me were playing, you got me to the end of the game, and you and me were playing through it, and I finished the first cutscene, and the moment I finished it, I was rushed right into a second cutscene because the people had gotten off to another part.
Yeah, I think by that point I was saying, we're already in the next battle. Where are you? I was like, I think I've still got another 3 minutes.
Yeah, finished the second cutscene, got out, was at the start of the world. Now they gave like little portals that you could fast forward to. Fast forward to the end fight, ran in there, missed all of the chatting that happens in game.
Yeah.
And before I even got to the battle, the team and you had killed that person, and that was the end of the mission. And it was quite funny. But yes, that game is amazing for the DLC.
And it is, and it's one of those games like you need to have retired to play properly, or not have a job in the first place, or a family, or any form of commitment whatsoever.
And it's a game that it's still saved on my PlayStation, and I toggle past it sometimes, and I'm like, God, I would give anything to just have like and that's the thing, a year of my life to devote nothing but time to this, because it's a game that's worth devoting the time to, but no one had. Well, I mean, like you've got kids and a wife and a job, and we like it's because it's so time consuming.
It is, and it's one of those ones that, I mean, like I've gone back to it many times, and I've tried playing it again. But the most fun I had playing that game was when like yourself and Kev and Pete and stuff were playing it as well. Because that was most fun, because you're actually playing through the story together, kind of thing. Now I know we had a few moments where we were jumping back and forth between, I'm much further than you, so I'll jump in your game, we'll play catch up to whoever's up to the next one.
Yeah.
But even still, I mean, experiencing all those stories kind of and doing those battles were just absolutely amazing.
And what's insane about this game is now, I mean, you get a credit roll finishing Realm Reborn, and Realm Reborn goes on to the DLC, which is called Heaven's Ward, which goes on to the DLC that was called... God,
I'm struggling because there's been so many of them at this stage. It's been great.
There was like the one that introduced like the monks and the whatever else, and then there was something else, and now there's Endwalker, which is the final piece. But just to put it in perspective, to show, like, this game came out in 2010. 13 years later, they're still well, I mean, Endwalker.
I think Endwalker is the last
one, but they're still supporting it and putting out new active time events and everything like that into the game. But I think 13 years later, it's still being supported. And
13 years later, you can still go into it and see. Like I only jumped into it there, I think. I'm going to say 2 months ago, just to see, is it worth playing, kind of thing. And it is. It's 100% is, yeah. But the problem is, if you have the time. Yeah, if you have the time. And I mean, I jumped in, and there was always there's like the pirate town of Limsa Laminsa, which was always my favorite one to go to, because anytime you warp in there through the main crystal, it is just packed with people. I mean, like, you cannot move for this absolute dance floor people who are literally just doing that. Everyone's there to dance, show off their costumes and things. No one's actually doing any gameplay. They're just there to show off kind of stuff.
Well, I think as a community, it's probably one of the nicest communities that I've ever experienced. In that
by
I was
far
playing
and away.
I was playing that game with you for ages, and I think you stopped playing it for a time, and I was continuing on by myself. So I was like, God, I'd love to, to get chocobos, or certain kind of chocobos in that game. You needed to have a house.
You had to have a house, and you had to have a plot where you could plant particular crops to grow it, and you had to grow a specific type with a specific manure to get a specific. So you had to feed enough of these to the chocobo to actually get it. Oh, it's just.
But I went on to Reddit or some forum and found a group that were looking for people and asked them could I join, and I did, and it was lovely. Like I did missions with them. I went to the house; they were all there to greet me. They gave me a here's your room, here's a few items to decorate it if you want. We're going off to do a raid here. Would you like to join us? All that kind of stuff, and real chatty. And then I left to go to on the rally and then moved to New Zealand for a little bit. So I didn't touch that game for like 2-3 years. But I was still part of their guild, and I logged on 2.5 years later. And the moment I logged on, I got a little ping to say that you have post from your Moogle. And I went over and I opened the letter, and there it was, the head of the guild, the lovely fella who introduced me, was like, oh, my character was called Riri or something like that, Ririon or something. And he was like, Ririon, oh my God, it's so good to see you. We were worried something happened. How's life been treating you? Are you well? Like, would you like to come back? And just checking in on me. And I was like, my God, like what a nice group of people here,
But that's it, because like when I first played, I think I jumped onto it before you guys had started playing it, kind of thing. Because I was on it for a good. I think I was near the end game of Realm Reborn when you guys jumped on. And I remember like that I was playing solo for so long, and then I was doing one dungeon like that. And I just bumped it, just random, because every dungeon was random. You didn't know who you were going to get thrown up with. And I played as a healer in that game for forever and a day, kind of thing. So I jumped in, and I had no clue what I was doing for this one. Any dungeon, you kind of need to read up on it before you do it for the first time, because if you're a healer, you screw up, everybody dies.
Yeah.
And generally, like, there's people who will be nice, but I mean, there's a level of niceness that people will be.
Well, I think everyone's nice at the start of the game, but if you log on and they see that you're a certain level and you're not performing to expectation.
But like that, and the league I was playing is one of the Lalafell, is that the little
that was what my dude was. Yeah.
But he was playing as a tank, which was always hilarious because he got this tiny little midget of a thing that was just absolutely beasted out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that, I was getting like guided run throughs of how to do it, and the 2 DPS were helping out as well. It's just forwards running through it, and then at the end of it, was like, have you been playing this game on your own a while? I was like, yeah, no, since I started. I was like, do you want to join our clan? Or there's just a few of us. I was with them for about, I'd say 2 years playing away with them, and like that as well. I think at one point there was one of them wanted to get a double-seated chocobo, and the only way you could do that was to marry someone in the game. So you had to get this, go through this whole ceremony thing. I figured, what? Screw it. We'll do it for the laugh kind of thing. And it turns out we both got the chocobo in the end. But like that, it was like, you do the whole marriage and the whole clan turned out. And I was like, what is this? It's like, what have I become?
Such a nice community in that game. And I think the reason the community is so nice is because what the DLC has done, what the developers have done with the DLC for that game has made it easier for the community to be nice, because they have been forgotten. It's constantly being updated in newer, better ways, and quality of life improvements all the time. Yeah, that game's up there with, and like I said, 12 years basically of DLC and like big expansions, like massive expansions.
I think one of them itself was actually bigger than Realm Reborn. So I was like, you're talking about DLCs that are bigger than the game itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, still have to finish it. Still haven't. I think I'm on.
No, and I only they have 5 DLCs, like 5 big things. So Endwalker's the last one. I never even finished the second one.
I got as far as the second last one, which was Shadow Walker, I think, and Shadow something anyway, which was dark, which was really dark, but really good. But I think I got towards the end of that. Stopped playing it for ages. Endwalker came out, and I kept going, oh well, I won't do it, and then I went back into it, and they've changed the way the game plays so much that it's like you nearly need to start again. I was like, I can't do that. I've got like all my professions up to such high levels. If I start again, I'll just cry. And again, doing it solo, because like the guild I was with all that time, they long since disbanded.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't do this thing. So it's a case of you need friends.
That's what I'd love. I'd love to retire, with a couple of mates and just play that game forever. It'd be amazing.
When VR becomes such a thing, you can just live
in the world. Yeah. I think I'm going to go on to kind of Endgame that I really enjoyed, and it would be remiss of me not to mention this game, but Kingdom Hearts.
You haven't mentioned them in a while, all right? So I
haven't mentioned them. But no, Kingdom Hearts had, and I'm going to go specifically for Kingdom Hearts 1, because it was at a time where I wasn't always on the internet. It was at a time where it wasn't always that easy to find out certain things. So I rolled credits on Kingdom Hearts 1 and kind of, I could see that there was, the ultimate weapon that you could get synthesized by Huey, Dewey, and Louie, the Donald Duck's nephews or whatever, as playing as Sora. But then I went into, was going into certain, revisiting certain worlds to get certain items. Now, I had no idea there was any endgame content in this game at all. I thought I just rolled credits and that was it. And now I'm just doing the completionist side of things.
Yeah.
And I rocked into Neverland, Peter Pan's place, and flew to this area that I didn't realize existed before. I was like, now I can fly, I can go up here. And it was a clock tower, and all of a sudden there's a cutscene, and it's me versus this kind of Grim Reaper-esque fella. An incredible boss fight. So not Final Fantasy VII weapon difficulty of endgame boss fight. So it's not like fighting the Emerald or the Ruby weapon or anything like that, but incredibly challenging fight. And I was like, interesting. So, it didn't meet him in my first run, but I was like, I wonder what else is here. And then went off to Agrabah and found there was another boss, a very Arabian kind of crab-looking thing, incredibly challenging as well. So the end game of Kingdom Hearts essentially just consisted of
random bosses spread out.
Really random boss fights. And Kingdom Hearts 2 perfected it because the battle system in Kingdom Hearts 2 was, in my opinion, one of the most fun and balanced battle systems in any game going. But it was fun to experience that in Kingdom Hearts, and I can't talk about endgame content, like positive endgame content, without talking about the Colosseum's platinum match. And just because, again, and like I had nothing spoiled for me. It was all from this first time experience of going through this game and getting to the Colosseum and being, I didn't actually finish all the matches here. I'll do that and get the 100% for this game. And then all of a sudden seeing there's a thing that this, it says platinum match, and it's 4 question marks as to who the enemy is. And I was like, interesting, I'll go in there. And running into you get a cutscene when you run in there, and the sky's all purple. It's just Sora. You don't have Donald and Goofy. And I was like, what is this? And I remember Graham was sitting beside me, watching me when I first went into that. And, this ball of like dark matter appears above the Colosseum's arena. And then it blows up, and you just see that one wing fly out.
And it's like,
dun, 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 dun. And you get that one-winged angel music. And I was like, my God, this game even has a Sephiroth fight that was insanely difficult to complete. You
spent so much time trying to beat that.
And it was, one of the most satisfying things, Kevin's, I think I brought this up once before, but beating him on a relatively low level, all things considered, like level, I think it was 57, 58, by the time I beat him.
Kev is going to be just
maxed
hating this.
Yeah, he maxed out all his characters at levels 100, still couldn't beat him, so there was a massive joy in that. But that was my first really experience of endgame content, because I think I was probably, when I was getting into all this side of things, I was probably only about 12 or 13. Playing through this and kind of realizing that was like, oh, hey, there's more stuff here that I can play, and it's all positive, the world's already there. There's no additional places to go, but when you go back to certain places, things have changed a little bit, and there's a boss here, or there's new items here, and just kept me playing. And like I said, that Sephiroth fight alone would have me saying that Kingdom Hearts 1 has incredibly good endgame content. So yeah, I couldn't go without popping that in there, Andrew. So
no, that's fair, because I don't think I can finish this episode off without mentioning my all-time favorite one for DLC.
Is this your next one? No Man's Sky?
Oh, of course, it's No Man's Sky.
It's No Man's Sky. Take it away. You might as well. If we're talking about our all-time favorite games,
I cannot go without mentioning like the fact that like that game. Now, to be fair, again, it could have been so like Anthem, like it was and had gone the same way. Like that game.
A great redemption story.
Oh, insanely good redemption story, and something I wish could have happened for the likes of Anthem as well, but that's not to be now. But No Man's Sky, I mean, the story on that was bizarre. It's probably the best way of putting it. Like it was
the actual campaign storyline.
Yeah. So the campaign story was like, I won't go too much into it because like a lot of people are joining No Man's Sky for the first time now, especially with all the DLCs coming out and the expeditions coming out. And
it's very kind. Yeah, just ruined Horizon for everybody.
Well, no, I mean. With this as well, like with No Man's Sky, you do get a sense of satisfaction from having completed the story and find out, because it's a lot like what Dark Souls, kind of the way Chris would explain the things, is that a lot of it is there for you, but a lot of it you kind of have to figure out, and you're kind of bumping ideas off other people. Like Reddit was great for me trying to figure out like, what the hell did I just
witness,
understand, and trying to figure out all the lore behind it as well, because there's a huge amount of lore behind No Man's Sky, and everyone plays and kind of thinks, starfighter, shooty, make bases on planets there, you're done. But there's a huge amount of lore and a huge amount of story to that game. There's a thing called the Artemis Path, which is basically you're trying to find a fellow traveler like yourself called Artemis.
And this is after credits have rolled.
No, this is the story. So Artemis is the start of the No Man's Sky story.
Okay.
So as you first arrive in the world and you see this red orb, it rises up out of the first thing you touch, basically, and it kind of sets the storyline of there's something out there. There's a mysterious signal that you need to get in touch with, and it turns out it's this alien called Artemis, who's like you, he's a traveler, which is the race of all the players plays, the anomaly players, and like that he's lost and he's trying to find out where he is and he can't figure out where he is. And everyone who should know him remembers him, but he doesn't remember anyone else. And it's a case of a lot of the players you come across, like Nada and Polo, are the two travelers who jump between the multiverse, for want of a better way of thinking of it. They know everyone because they've seen you in the past and you'll see them in the future. They're connected to everything kind of thing and all the different iterations and stuff. And they keep talking about Artemis as like, oh, Artemis friend, he should know us. Artemis traveler, he should know us. And then you talk to Artemis and he's no clue who anyone else is. He's off as if he's like cut off in a complete bubble to himself. And it's great. You follow this whole story. You meet the Atlas, which is this world simulator deity thing that everyone's terrified of and has supposedly let loose the Sentinels, which are the destroying race that are machines that are trying to wipe out everything kind of thing. And everyone thinks the Atlas is this big, bad, evil thing. But when you actually find out what it is and what its purpose is and where it came from, it's like, Jesus. Like the thought that went into it. And as you can see it from the very start, and you don't realize that's what that meant. That's amazing. But then they started bringing out all these DLCs when the game finally finished and everyone was like, is this it? This isn't what we were promised. And then they disappeared for a year or two and they came back with all these DLCs and made the game into what it should have been, and then more and more and more. So as far as I'm concerned, like after I think the 4th or 5th DLC, that's where Endgame began, because they finally finished the story the way they wanted to finish the story. So I think Atlas Rises was, we completely revamped the story, played again from the start. There's your entire story, everything we promised you, minus like a Diplodocus here and there. And
so would you consider, and this is an interesting question, like, or I'm just going to hop on the other side, but would you consider a good DLC if the DLC was just put in there to give you the game you should have gotten?
That's what I mean. The DLC up until Atlas Rises, which I think was the 5th DLC they brought out. By all means, correct me on this with...
The Gift of Gaming Podcast at gmail.com.
There we go. I think it was the 5th. It was definitely Atlas Rises anyway, which kind of like, brought the story to the way it was supposed to be. There's a few other bits and pieces that added more into it, but from that point on, yeah, I think that was end credits as such. And then everything from then has been DLC, Endgame, whatever you want to call it, kind of thing. And then there's been all the expeditions as well, which is basically start a new game, create a new character, play through this kind of set mission we give you, and then all the rewards from that you can carry back to your main save file and continue on with all those kind of things. So those have been they're like the Endgame dungeons you see in other games kind of thing. So they've been amazing. They've been so much fun to play. I mean, there's one I'll never forget. You're there playing the mission and you keep hearing this weird signal that you're trying to pick up on. Okay. And then towards the end of it, not to spoil anything for anyone, but this is fairly early on in the expeditions kind of thing. You see the Normandy just fly, drift across with the music playing in the background. It just casually drifts across the sky. And it's like,
I'm just interested in terms of how they got that in there, because No Man's Sky, they're not BioWare, sure they're not?
No, they're not. They're Hello Games, which are completely, they're their own little tiny little studio.
Just like, hey, little Easter egg, here's a little bit of space for you.
I think it's they've done lots of little mentions here and there kind of thing, and there's little things thrown in from different games and different genres and stuff like that. And again, it's a massive open world space sim and survival game, so you can kind of they can put anything in really, because it's all these different universes and anything can happen.
I like the way that they actually managed to get to a point where there is what I would consider legitimate DLC for that game, as opposed to updates to give you the game you should have gotten. Because I mean, like I said, it's an amazing redemption story that people actually got what they were promised eventually. But I'm glad that they went beyond that to deliver DLC, because at the very least, people deserve the game that they should have gotten. But it's a nice little bonus to think that there was extra bits given thereafter to give you just a little bit more.
I think it's a case of like, you can look at the DLC as just fine-tuning the game the way it was meant to be kind of thing, whereas the expeditions are the definitive as such DLC to get. And again, like it's all handed to you free of charge kind of thing, which is something I'm always amazed at. Here's our next one, free. Here's our next one.
Yeah, but it should have been. Should have been like that. It's that thing where this was what you were promised, and that's where I hope game was get better and learn, because I'd say for them, what was more expensive, to hold off on the game until you finished it and deliver what you should have done, or to do what you've done this way and kind of just for years just giving out free stuff. I'm kind of like, I hope people are learning from a business model perspective. You know, I'm sure the bigwigs in boardrooms want the game released at certain times a year for your end of year. You know, did you do good? Did you do bad in your financial year? But at the end of the day, it's like, well, look, nothing good has ever come from a game being released.
Rushed out like that,
rushed out, exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
but they've all been bad stories.
You look at Cyberpunk. I mean, that had its own little redemption story.
Took years to recover.
And it is. And like, I played that recently as well, and I really enjoyed it. And I played it after all the stuff had been added to it, so I have no idea what it was like. And like beforehand.
I've been bitten, and I have the game, the updated version, the PlayStation 5. You know, that Graham is given a shot of anytime he's over. He plays a little bit of it, but to me, I don't know if I'll ever get into it because I was bitten so bad, and I would doubt I'm the only person who's like that. I'd say there's plenty of people, and it's just I'm glad No Man's Sky's actually delivered the good DLC. But what I was going to say is we need an episode by itself for this next game. I'm just going to mention it as an honorable mention before I go into my last one, because you and me can do a lot of talking about it. But I think from an Endgame perspective, and online, when I was looking at what people's opinions were on best DLC, best Endgame stuff, Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter as a series in general is one of the greatest deliverers of endgame content, because you get like the credit roll surprisingly early in those games in terms of, I finished the story. And, you know, we'll go into it in greater depth, I'm sure, in terms of why it's so much fun. But to think that we did the endgame and then spent, you know, the guts of a year during COVID continuing playing that game, and it was new stuff and great stuff and interesting stuff, and like, the next thing, the next big thing, and I'm like, when is this game actually when do I stop seeing new things in this game? And it was one of the greatest delivers. But one, before we finish up, because we are getting close to that time, and I want to talk a little bit about this one of the greatest DLCs I think brought into a game from my perspective. I'm not saying it is the greatest DLC, but Red Dead Redemption 1 was an incredible game. For them to turn that Wild West into Undead Redemption.
Undead. That was...
And it's not just like a cheat code that you switch on and loads of people become zombies and that's the skit. It was a whole other part of the game that you could play it. I think there was people online who said you can play it at a certain point. I forget the character's name, but he's kind of like a Gollum-esque character in the original Red Dead. He's not very trustworthy. He's kind of a vagrant or whatever else, and in the, you know, he's a bit mad in the main game, and there's a point I think in the main game where he dies, but there's a point where he's in a hidey hole somewhere mixing things and drinking things that he shouldn't, and you can pick it up from that point and then start playing the Undead Redemption, and it's almost as if it, like, he creates something that makes in my head. I'm not saying it's canon, but it's how I deliver the story. But he ends up, because he's so crazy, he ends up kind of...
He's a really thin fella that wears the kind of the dungaree thing.
And he's all, like, all his clothes are all haggard. And he, like, the zombies don't attack him. He's kind of got control over them and stuff. But that game, it was an entirely different game with this DLC that they brought out. And it didn't do anything to the map. They just put an extra couple of missions in it. And all the missions still had the same beats. You know, go here, shoot them. But the fact that they turned the Wild West, which was a great Wild West that they created, into this undead Wild West, because at this point we hadn't seen a zombie apocalypse in the Wild West. Do you know what I mean?
It's one of the few places we hadn't seen.
Yeah, that was, and so this form of media was, I think, the first big introduction to zombies in the West that I can really think of myself. I'm sure there's probably something out there that exists beforehand. But it changed the game entirely in that rather than it being a gunslinging fun time, I'm John Morrison kicking ass, it was actually a very spooky, unsettling game to play thereafter.
I will never forget playing that game the first time I was playing it, and there is a bridge in it that is so reminiscent of the one from Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane's,
and it's got the roof on it.
The headless horseman kind of thing. And I remember playing that, and at the time, I was being chased by so many zombies, and I'd out of ammo in pretty much everything at this stage, and I was like just legging it and constantly running my sprint bar down. And I remember getting to that point and turning around, and that moment where they're already on top of me, and I had literally I remember firing off like 2 rounds before this horde just kind of completely engulfed me.
And it's so spooky because they chase you on horseback or otherwise. They chase you. You could look back and you can see hordes, and it's not like DayZ hordes, like the stupid fucking. There's a million things chasing you. It's like, holy crap, there's like 9 zombies chasing me, and that's enough.
That's enough.
Like that's enough to scare the living shit out of me. But what was great about that game was it added all these normal Red Dead Redemption beats into it. So there was loads of new collectibles, but Red Dead Redemption 1 had lots of hunting, and then when you hunted certain animals, you would hunt kind of legendary animals or mythical creatures.
The ultimate version of that particular
and
batch.
then in this one, they introduced Sasquatch, that you could go and hunt. Like one of the things, there are 10 Sasquatches in the world, and you go hunt them. And I remember going into the forest around the world map, trying to find these Sasquatches, and actually being really spooked because they were like big, hulking, giant walking apes in the forest that just shouldn't be there. The way they moved was unsettling. The noises they made was unsettling. And then getting into a fight with them was quite scary because they were incredibly powerful, and one hit from them would generally speaking
kill you on the spot.
But it changed the game entirely. I was playing this Wild West gunslinging game, and all of a sudden I'm actually playing a scary, spooky, like horror survival game.
And that was the thing. I mean, I always remember those kind of games that the worst thing you could ever come across was a bear, because that was kind of like the thing that would destroy you on the spot kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this was like a bear that was smart and was hunting you while you were hunting it.
Yeah.
I don't like this anymore.
So unsettling. And one of the biggest, I think, money grabbers that Rockstar missed out on, and I'm surprised because they are a bit money grabbing as a company these days, with like kind of how GTA 5 plays out and microtransactions, blah, blah, blah. But it would have been an absolute bestseller to make an Undead Redemption 2. In the Arthur Morgan world of Red Dead Redemption 2, why they didn't do the exact same thing. Like, make it zombies, give us loads of zombies, give us extra quests, make it spooky, give us other collectibles. But
I found, though, with the Red Dead Redemption 2, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I played the main game, which was obviously incredible. Absolutely loved it. The storyline for that was amazing. Playing the online of that, I played it a bit. Like, I know, I think by the time I started playing with you guys, I'd kind of hit the point of I don't want to play this anymore solo, because like that, you're doing the moonshine runs, so that it's impossible solo. You were doing some of the other missions, they're impossible solo. The bounties next to impossible solo. But from what I remember, didn't they kind of just, like, DLC for that just petered off for the online anyway?
No, so GTA 5, and like, kudos to them because it paid dividends, and I guess it was the right decision at the end of the day, much to the chagrin of the Red Dead Redemption 2 fans. They put all the money and all the development into GTA 5, which was an absolute hit because it's still one of the best-selling games in the world, and it's fucking, I don't know how many years old it is now.
It's across 3 consoles now at this
Yeah,
stage.
exactly. Across 3 generations, and it's still madly popular. But it's... I get, they didn't support Red Dead Redemption 2 online at all. But I'm not talking about making that online. I wouldn't want it online. Just give me the one player story.
I get you. Yeah, in the
like,
solo
don't get
play.
me wrong. It'd be hella fun running around with your mates and having zombies chasing and stuff like that. But that's not the version that I would have. I mean, if that's the version I got, I wouldn't have complained because I just wanted it.
I could
in
never
format.
see them making it in the, because Rockstar have gone so much for the.
There was so many little hints though, Andrew, when you played through the game, because the game had all these, like I said, the most lived-in open world I've ever played. But it had all these things where, like, I remember, and accidental. I didn't go online. That was the great thing about it. You didn't have to go online oftentimes because the world was so lived, and you'd come across so many things. But I remember walking into a house at nighttime one time, just out in the wild, and there's loads of skeletons in bed, and you can read a little sheet, and apparently they were a cult praying to some, definitely like an alien name.
Yeah.
And they'd all drunk something, they all died because that was the drink that they were meant to help their soul get, brought up to the whoever in the sky. And while it was there in this thing, a massive light just turned onto the house, and I ran outside, and it was a UFO. Yeah. And this UFO, hovers off there and then flies off. And then there's like a ghost train. There was all these little nods to like the scary or the horror or whatever else that I was like, you guys really missed a genuine opportunity, I believe. Because I mean, fuck, you could have charged me, and you could have charged me 40 quid for that, and I would have paid it.
I honestly think, had that have launched, I mean, if you think of the Bayou area at
the
night,
Bayou area is scary enough as it is.
Terrifying at night on its own.
Imagine zombies coming out of the swamp at you.
I genuinely don't think I would have
Zombie
played
crocodiles, Andrew.
Yeah, zombie crocodile.
Like, it's such a wasted opportunity, and I think that's one of my favorite DLCs of all time, Undead Redemption.
Yeah.
One of the greatest misses in video game DLC of all time, Undead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's a good spot to leave this episode.
Yeah, 100%. That was
For those of you who are listening, thank you very much. There is, like I said, a truckload of bonus content you can listen to if you go to patreon.com/the gift of gaming, and for the cost of a coffee a month, there's 4 extra little post-show chats that you can get involved in. And today after the show, myself and Andrew are going to talk about some of our favorite video game boss fights. If you want to hear about that, get on to patreon.com/gift of gaming and give it a listen. Andrew, thanks a mil for hopping on.
Always, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. And to all our listeners out there, keep enjoying the gift that is gaming. Peace out.
Later, folks.